Good morning to you. It is Monday, December the 19th. I'm Heather Nauert in for Ainsley Earhart today. President-elect Donald Trump on his way to making America great again. More than 500 electors voting today to certify his victory.
And despite the fact that he won the election fair and square, the mainstream media urging those electors to do anything but vote for Donald Trump. Please, they say.
People are still holding out hope that the Electoral College, when they vote tomorrow, will somehow miraculously decide that Hillary Clinton is the winner.
There's a hope. There's a glimmer of hope on the Constitution.
Yeah, but somebody's got to break the news to Joy about what the Constitution really says. We'll explain that coming up shortly.
That pesky Constitution.
Yeah.
Ben, 6 days until Christmas, but not on one college campus.
We're just sending a letter to the administration to be like, hey, this can be almost oppressive for some people. Would you guys like to sign?
I will totally sign.
She did say oppressive.
Oppressive, okay.
Bah humbug. It doesn't end there. You're going to want to hear the rest of it. But we will say Merry Christmas here on Fox and Friends. Morning, are better with friends.
The spirits up, we're here tonight, and that's enough.
Live from the Avenue of the Americas, it's the last Monday before Christmas. And live from Studio E here in Rockefeller Center, it's Fox and Friends, the world's #1 cable morning news show. And look who we've got today with us on the Curvy Couch. We got Heather.
And Pete Hegseth.
And you.
Day.
Thank
and
you
all of
very
you.
much.
Yeah.
Good morning to you.
Holy cow, a lot going on today.
Oh my goodness. Today it will be official. The New York Post has got this. It's D-Day. Donald Trump will officially become the president of the United States. However, this is also the last chance for the sore losers on the left to try to steal the election via the Electoral College.
That's right. If you were watching the Sunday shows yesterday, then it isn't a foregone conclusion, right? Then there are plenty of those out there who feel like, well, maybe it won't happen. Maybe there will be a magical reversal of all these electors. In fact, if you missed the Sunday shows and you missed a little bit of the coverage yesterday, here's a montage of the mainstream media and the reaction some are still having to the reality that tonight Donald Trump will be elected officially. Here's what they had to say.
Anti-Trump protesters are still hoping for one last chance to stop him.
It seems that people are still holding out hope that the Electoral College, when they vote tomorrow, will somehow miraculously decide that Hillary Clinton is the winner.
When the Founding Fathers created the Electoral College, they put it in place as a fail-safe against a demagogue like Donald Trump. So the electors could be doing their patriotic duty on Monday by voting against Trump.
The Electoral College is not a rubber stamp in many states. You do have to think about your vote.
If I were an elector and I were going to the polls tomorrow, I would want to know if the next president of the United States colluded with a foreign hostile power to affect our democracy.
There's a hope. There's a glimmer of hope on the Constitution.
Completely constitutional.
Alexander Hamilton.
Oh boy, and there's Jay Behar and also Meathead. Wasn't that Meathead?
That was Meathead.
That was Meathead right there. Trying to undo federalism, right? They're trying to get the states to let the feds take control of things and undermine everything with this election and undermine Donald Trump as he takes the presidency.
Absolutely, and that's why these electors, there are 538 electors. They're going to go to their various state capitals today, and they're going to officially cast their ballots for whomever their state won. It looks like there's one guy, I think down in Texas, he's a Republican, he may flip. But for this plan by the political left to work, you would need 37 Republican electors essentially to flip. So then what happens? What is their plan after that? Keep in mind, the recount didn't work, the Russia thing didn't work, and so the Electoral College thing's not going to work. So what would be planned for? Well, that would be for this to then go to the House of Representatives. And every state would have one vote. And when you look at the balance of power and you think about, okay, 50 states, how many of them are Republicans? In the House, you got 238.
So Steve,
is Trump going to win that?
What you're saying is that Donald Trump's going to be the next president of the United States. And, you heard Joy Behar talk about the Constitution. It is actually Article 2, Section 1, Clause 3 that says whatever happens that may muddy the mix, it goes to the House. where Paul Ryan and the Republicans are going to elect Donald
and
Trump.
Republicans will still be in control when this would potentially go in front of the House in January.
Sure. By the way, the House would pick the president. The Senate would pick the vice president. So theoretically, you could actually have Donald Trump with Mike Pence. However, given the fact that the Senate is made up the way it is,
but the great part is the mainstream media is going to hyperventilate about this all day. Treat tonight like it's some sort of November 6th election night when there is no chance the outcome will be different at all. Some people have talked about fake news. This kind of feels like fake news to me. What are we talking about all day today?
Yeah,
an outcome that is a foregone conclusion.
The amount of coverage that this has gotten has really probably unprecedented for the size of the story it is, because it's really not that big of a story. You have Democrats talking about it, making it a story, but there's really nothing to it. Because think of how many times in a newsroom we'll sit around and we'll talk about how something won't happen. We know for a fact something won't happen, and therefore we downplay that story, right? This won't happen. They're not going to get 37 to flip.
But here's the thing.
But yet they're still talking about it as though it could.
Here's the thing that is the unknown, and this is the jeopardy, and this is why we don't really know what's going to happen. Each one of these Republican electors has been bombarded by tens of thousands of email and death threats. And in the state of Pennsylvania, it has gotten so bad, each of the 19 Republican electors is going to be escorted all day around by a state trooper from the great state of Pennsylvania.
Police protection for electors to do their constitutional duty.
This is unbelievable. I was talking to a D.C. insider, a very smart attorney on Friday, and she said to me, you look at this intimidation and the death threats. She said, why hasn't the Department of Justice opened a civil rights investigation into why these are happening?
It's a good question.
Think about it. If members of the DNC were getting death threats, or Greenpeace, or Black Lives Matter, or the Sierra Club, there would be a DOJ investigation. There would be a special prosecutor. There would be right now over on MSNBC a town hall on this very topic.
And let's keep in mind that this is an AstroTurf campaign, right? This is not a grassroots, up from the bootstraps kind of campaign where people are just of their own, out of the
That's a great point. It is.
To try to change these things. This is organized. I wouldn't be surprised if George Soros or some of those folks
organized effort to delegitimize Donald Trump. And as he always does, Donald Trump cut through the noise on this and pointed out what needs to be pointed out. He tweeted yesterday, I think we'll put it on the screen, if my many supporters acted and threatened people like those who lost the election are doing, they would be scorned and called terrible names. If you watch other networks and coverage, they say it's pressure on these electors, scrutiny in these electors. If it was the other way around, it would be harassment and attacks and threats. I mean, that's exactly how it's classified.
One of the people talking about this is the actor Scott Baio. He was on Justice with Janine over the weekend, and he said something pretty simple, plain spoken. Listen to this.
I should not be put in a position where I'm afraid for my life and the life of my 9-year-old daughter because of my political beliefs, right? We won the election. And I didn't say boo in 08 or 12. I didn't say boo, but we won the election. And to quote the great President Barack Obama, elections have consequences. We won. You lost. Grow the blank up. Move on with your life.
There you go.
No wonder Joni loved Chachi.
Yeah.
Out in Pennsylvania, one of the Republican electors, a fellow by the name of Ash Kahar, who's getting police protection today, he said, regarding the intimidation and everything else, he says, this is stupid. Nobody is standing up telling these protesters enough. Knock it off. Where is the President of the United States? Why isn't the President of the United States out there on television? He could have mentioned this in his Friday press conference or live from out in Honolulu.
He's golfing.
Just knock it off. We are better than this. He's famous for saying that.
Whatever happened to that peaceful transition of power that they talked about after the election?
Well, and you got John Podesta and everyone else stoking it with all the Russian stuff. I mean, they're not undercutting it. They're stoking it.
Yeah.
And it's all an effort. Remember this. It's an effort to delegitimize from the beginning Donald Trump.
Absolutely. So what do you think? Email us, friends at foxnews.com. We'd like to think that we've got a lot of people watching right now. You could email us or Facebook us or tweet us. Should the Department of Justice open an investigation? Do you think it's going to be free and fair? Do you think anybody's going to flip? Many things to weigh in on. So please do.
You got it.
All right. In the meantime, let's head over to our friend Heather Childers, up early this morning with Fox and Friends First.
Absolutely.
Good morning,
to you all. Hope you had a great weekend.
Yes.
And everyone
me
at
too.
home as well. We do begin with a horrible story, though. This Fox News alert, a 3-year-old boy murdered in a road rage shooting, all because his grandmother was driving too slow. The horrifying tragedy happening in Little Rock, Arkansas. That's where a manhunt is underway at this hour. The family was heading to the store when someone drove up behind them. It was at a stop sign and started honking. Well, the grandmother beat back, and then moments later, the gunman got out of his car and opened fire. The grandmother and a 1-year-old in the car were not injured. Police are now offering a $20,000 reward. And an investigation is underway this morning into this. It was a wedding day tragedy. Southern California's Penn Park now closed indefinitely after a deadly accident as a couple took their wedding photos. An 80-foot tree collapsing right onto their wedding party, killing one woman and injuring several others. Drought conditions may be to blame, maybe, for the collapse, but they're investigating. And now to extreme weather for you, a winter storm wreaking havoc from the plains all the way in the Midwest. A near disaster, in fact, at one of the nation's busiest airports when a United Airlines plane slid right off the runway. Look at this. It was while it was landing at O'Hare in Chicago. And the storm's icy aftermath causing a deadly tanker explosion. Yeah, look at this. This was on I-95 in Baltimore after Arctic air turned that highway into an ice luge.
The whole 95 is on fire. Another tractor trailer slamming on the brake and going right into the fire. A disaster, Lord.
Can you imagine driving toward that? Well, 2 people died in that pileup. Icy roads killing 7 others all around the country, all as forecasters call for more bone-chilling temperatures. So bundle up and be careful. And Hollywood is mourning the loss of one of the first modern celebrities. Actress and socialite Zsa Zsa Gabor has died.
They only pretend to upload my song. What they really want is another glimpse of my broken heart. What is wrong with me, Ori? Other women find love and happiness. I find only disenchantment.
Gabor may be best known for her work offstage, though, rising to stardom for her high-profile love life, her wealth, and her unbridled glamour. Zsa Zsa Gabor was 99 years old, lived a long and exciting life, and she will never be replaced, that's for sure.
Unless there's somebody else who can marry 9 husbands. Yes. They might be replaced. 8 husbands.
Right, that's a lot.
I mean, one's enough.
Yes.
Zsa Zsa Gabor. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks. See you later.
See you later.
Thanks,
all right. Coming up this Monday, we told you electors across the country are getting threatened to dump Trump. Our next guest says he has absolutely no intentions of flipping despite the mounting personal attacks on him.
And speaking of electors, Hillary Clinton has a special holiday message for them, courtesy of Saturday Night Live.
We believe that every vote should count. The election was tainted by this intrusion.
It's a matter of following our Constitution and voting for a president who does not have obligations or is not influenced by foreign powers.
The question is whether there are 37 Republican electors who think that either there are open questions or that Donald Trump, based on everything we know about him, is really unfit to be president of the United States.
Well, the Electoral College just hours away from voting officially to confirm Donald Trump's victory, but thousands of Democrats are still urging electors across the country, in particular the Republicans, to change their minds and block the president-elect at today's vote. Here to react is Arizona elector and the state's Republican chairman, Robert Graham. He joins us today from the great city of Phoenix. Good morning to you, Robert.
Hey, good morning. Good to be here.
Okay, so what are you doing at noon today in the state capitol?
Well, it's actually 10 a.m., and we're going to make that big vote. We're going to cast our votes for Mr. Donald Trump, President-elect, and then also Vice President-elect Michael Pence.
All right, very good. That's what you're supposed to do. Although you're not obligated under state law, are you?
No, what we have in this process here in Arizona is actually all the electors sign a pledge that they're going to vote for the president-elect, or the nominee of the party if he becomes the president-elect. And but it's not binding, and there's no criminal penalty if they choose to go what they call a faithless vote.
Okay, I know in some states there is a $1,000 fine. Michael Moore has offered to pay anybody's fine if they're willing to flip or just say anybody but Trump. Now, Robert, let me ask you this. What, we've been talking about electors like yourself have been getting death threats and lousy letters in the mail and email. What's about the worst thing anybody's said to you?
Well, the worst thing is probably the most uncomfortable thing is one day I had a couple emails from the same person that said they were going to follow me and they were going to make us very uncomfortable because they knew where we lived and then I needed to cast a vote for Trump. Well, the next day on the freeway, I was actually looked to my right and I see people following me actually with their phone up against the window videoing. They slowed down behind. They got in front of my car. When I was at a traffic light, they were taking pictures. And that happened 2 days in a row and two different people. But again, slowly passing in front of our house, same car, same people. And that kind of intimidation for me, being the state party chair, has been not normal, but it's a little bit more, much more public. But the other electors, this is a new experience for them all around.
Absolutely. Why do you think the Department of Justice hasn't launched some sort of a civil rights investigation into, this intimidation, these death threats against people like you?
I think well, first of all, the Department of Justice, nothing surprises me when you look at this current administration and their lack of follow-through on anything that has to do with content surrounding the law. I mean, our president should stand out and say, hey, stand down, people. This is the process. Hillary Clinton, if she had any class and wasn't such a hypocrite as it related to her comments about not being or supporting a democratic process, I mean, people are just standing back and letting this happen. And it's full-on onslaught to where some of our electors, it's actually affecting their health.
In what way?
Well, think about the stress you have. You have anywhere from 50 to 100 letters a day. Now they're sending Christmas card type letters. And then you have emails that are just, we have one lady that's on our Electoral College who received 100,000 emails in one day. Her phone locked up, her home computer. She had to bring in help to just clear it out so she could actually function day to day on a normal basis.
Robert, doesn't it look to you as this, they tried the recount thing, that didn't work. They tried the Russia thing, that didn't work. Now they're trying the intimidation thing. This is just a last chance for the sore losers to try to steal the election, right?
That's it. Well, it's unbelievable. And then we talk about voter suppression. I mean, here it is at the pinnacle. They're trying to intimidate people away from voting, making them feel very uncomfortable to do it. But I agree with you. Today, they're going to lose one more time, and we get to call them a loser one more time.
All right. Robert Graham is going to be casting his vote today in the Electoral College for Donald Trump at 11 o'clock. Sir, thank you very much for joining us live from Phoenix.
Hey, you're welcome.
All right.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks.
Good luck. All right, what do you think about that? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Meanwhile, it's 6:20 here in New York City, and the New York Times has apparently hit a brand new low, suggesting the Trump administration might be inciting the next September the 11th. Is that a fair assessment? We're going to have a debate coming up next. And what happens when you ask college students to sign a petition to ban Christmas?
Aren't religious, and we're just sending a letter to the administration to be like, hey, this can be almost oppressive for some people. Would you guys like to sign?
I will totally sign.
Welcome back. We've got some quick headlines for you. The UN Security Council voting today on whether to send dozens of monitors to war-torn Aleppo in Syria. A fragile ceasefire now in place as thousands are evacuated from that Syrian city. Overnight, a convoy of buses arrived to help evacuate people, but several of those buses were attacked, coming and going. And the terror suspect accused of setting off bombs across 2 states is expected back in federal court today. Ahmad Rahami allegedly detonating explosives in New York and New Jersey in September, injuring 30 people. Rahami is charged with the use of weapons of mass destruction and faces life behind bars. Maybe Gitmo. We'll see. Heather, over to you.
All right, thanks, Pete. Well, President-elect Donald Trump taking on the New York Times. Listen to this.
They had a clown today in the failing New York Times who said that I wanted to have another World Trade Center catastrophe because it's good for my base. Can you believe this? What kind of a demented person would say that?
Well, that is true. That is what was said. The New York Times' Paul Krugman tweeted, quote, thought there was rightly a cloud of illegitimacy over Bush dispelled wrongly by 9/11 creates some interesting incentives for Trump. So has the mainstream media finally gone too far? Here to debate, Bree Payton, a staff writer for The Federalist and a Democratic consultant, Michael Taubman. Michael, let's start with you. What on earth is this columnist, Paul Krugman, smoking?
I would say not much. I believe it is appropriate for the New York Times and for all media outlets to point out the connection between foreign affairs and the impact it has on domestic politics.
But to imply that Donald Trump would do something horrible in order to benefit himself politically? I mean, that's an insane assertion.
No, nobody is suggesting that 9/11 was anything but a horrific, awful day for America and an attack on our country. But what he is underscoring is that presidents, Democratic and Republican both, and of course foreign leaders, have found benefit in foreign affairs and sometimes misadventures for the purpose of shoring up domestic
Bree, Michael
politics.
doesn't see any kind of connection here. It seems pretty clear what Paul Krugman is implying, that Donald Trump would use some sort of a terror attack or foment some sort of attack or something in order for to get some political benefit out of it.
You're completely right. He is saying that Donald Trump would stand to benefit from another 9/11, and that provides an incentive for him for something to happen. And it also implies that Donald Trump was somehow had something to do or was coordinating with the Russians when they hacked the DNC and when they published all the information via WikiLeaks. And we know the intelligence community and President Obama himself has told us that Donald Trump didn't have anything to do. It wasn't a coordinated effort with Vladimir Putin. So, I mean, these accusations are completely false. But honestly, I'm not surprised that Paul Krugman said this. I think his brain broke a long time ago. This is the same guy who said that the FBI had sympathies with the alt-right and that the Republican Party was, enabling the Kremlin. So really, I'm not surprised at this coming from him.
Okay, let's bring back Michael. Michael, it's an interesting kind of window into how some on the left view Republicans, clearly with a lot of disdain here. Do they want Republicans to succeed? Do they want Donald Trump to succeed, the President of the United States?
I believe everybody has a sincere interest in seeing the President-elect and shortly at noon, the President.
This doesn't read that way, though.
No, I believe it reads that. We need to have an honest conversation about the potential for foreign affairs and misadventures to impact domestic politics. We have a president-elect, soon president, who is not experienced in foreign affairs other than his business dealings, and it needs to be discussed.
Was Barack Obama experienced in foreign affairs prior to becoming president of the United States?
Nor was Bill Clinton, and look what he did in Central Europe to distract attention away from the impeachment, and we saw President H.W. do it with
let's bring you back in. Paul Krugman now responding to Donald Trump, writing this, quote, I also hear that the orange one says I'm demented. It's an honor to be cited. Your reaction?
I think this is a desperate plea for attention from a guy who's been coming completely unhinged over the past couple of months and has been writing for a publication that has produced an insane number of fake news as they've predicted every single turn of the election completely wrong. I mean, every single day there's a new excuse, there's a new reason why Hillary Clinton lost the election coming from the left and coming from the media. And it's never why she was a flawed candidate. It's never how she set up a private email server and used it to curry favors with deep-pocketed donors. It's, last week it was the Russians. Yesterday, or the other day rather, President Obama is blaming the media. And now I guess Paul Krugman is saying that, Donald Trump needs another 9/11 in order to be a legitimate president.
Michael, how widespread is this viewpoint among those on the left?
Among those on the left, I believe there is a concern, and I would say among all concerned Americans, there is a worry that his inexperience, Trump, in foreign affairs and his temper and his unfiltered, spur-of-the-moment word salads that he throws out
Would you have said that, though, about President Obama inexperience with foreign affairs? It didn't seem to matter to folks then, back in 2008 or 2012.
It was a concern then with President Obama, as it was with President Clinton. It is a concern now with President Trump.
We have to leave you both there. Thank you so much for joining us. Bree and Michael, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, horror on the highway caught on camera when a driver slams head-on into a utility pole at full force. Watch this.
What are you doing? What the? What are you doing?
Oh, wow. What went wrong behind the wheel? That's coming up next. And first, she said they were fake. Now, Donna Brazile says Democrats' hacked emails were weapons used against Hillary Clinton. So which is it? But first, happy birthday to Jennifer Beals, the Flashdance actress.
Yep, today's the last day they can steal the election.
That's right.
And they're pulling out all the
They only got
stuff.
a few hours left, actually.
You know, Pete was explaining to me earlier that that was a play on the movie Love Actually.
I remember
which
that.
is, you know, a romantic comedy.
She hasn't seen it.
I
You haven't seen Love Actually?
No.
It's actually a great.
You would love it. When I'm explaining that, it's,
Yeah. When the soldier is explaining it to the lady.
It's a good Christmas movie. You need to watch it.
That's how you end up with 3 kids.
That's right.
That's right. Romantic guy.
I tell you what, you know, if you're following along, today, of course, the Electoral College officially votes. We were under the impression it was going to be noon everywhere. We just had somebody from Arizona. He said 10 o'clock. Nonetheless, this is just the latest plan. There's been an hysteria whipped up in the media.
Yeah.
It all started with, after Donald Trump won, they tried to steal the election with a recount, the Jill Stein thing. Would that work? No, that didn't work. Then they started to blame Russia, and they were continuing with the Russia things, how Russia has really deeply impacted the election yesterday on all the chat shows.
Yeah, they're trying to make it seem like the vote wasn't legitimate because of all the outside factors that influenced it.
Yeah.
And it's not just happening in the pundit and the media class, it's happening at the top of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, certainly. And when Russia, or we believe it to be Russia, it certainly seems, hacked, we ended up with some accurate information. We ended up finding out how Democrats...
It wasn't a hack, it was a leak.
Excuse me. We ended up finding out exactly how they feel about the United States, about the election, how folks on the inside felt about Hillary Clinton, all of that. So voters were able to respond with their own opinions about all of that and voted for Donald Trump as a result.
They did. Donna Brazile, she wound up losing her job because it was revealed, thanks to these leaks, that apparently she was, everybody at the DNC had their entire hand on the scale trying to help.
Yeah, they were
Hillary
giving
Clinton.
away debate questions.
No kidding. So anyway, yesterday she was talking about how those emails were weaponized against the Democrats. Listen to this.
Donna, your party was hacked. Some of your emails were included in that. Do you buy the president's argument, or do you think he let Democrats down by not taking a stronger approach?
Well, first of all, I'm gratified that after 7 months, when it was confirmed by our cybersecurity experts, and as well as the FBI, that everyone is now taking it seriously. This was a very intrusive process. The president's party was hacked, not the Democratic Party. The president, he is a Democrat. His party was hacked. The emails were weaponized. The release of stolen, hacked emails caused a lot of confusion, and of course, it disrupted our daily campaign lives.
It disrupted our daily lives.
Well,
whose fault is that?
Well, exactly. If you keep a private server, you don't secure things, and ultimately, John Podesta, what you know is he clicked on a phishing link, which is anybody could do.
Yeah.
But it's not as sophisticated as people think.
Yeah, and because the DNC had shoddy cybersecurity themselves as a result of that.
And what was revealed through these leaks was the fact that Donna Brazile and everybody else at the DNC was totally anti-Bernie Sanders. They were doing everything they could. Bernie was much more popular than Hillary Clinton. Now, the big question, what she was trying to say there is that the use of these emails weaponized them against the Republicans, and particularly Hillary.
That's why they lost the election, is what she's saying.
So we have gone back into the archives, and we've looked at the Real Clear politics average of what Hillary Clinton had. She was at 48% on October 6th. That is the day before the WikiLeaks hack started, right? Okay, then her actual popular vote, she actually went up 0.2. So for them to make the argument that those really destroyed her, you look at the numbers.
Except it didn't move at all. In fact, it bumped up a little bit. Interesting. You know, it's those pesky facts.
Facts.
I know.
Schmacks.
And at the top of that soundbite, Donna Brazile was asked about the president. What he had said the day before was that he said Friday there was no tampering in the election process after he told Putin to knock it off. So as soon as he said, just stop it, and then that was it. She wouldn't respond to that.
Thankfully, we know Putin responds to cut it out.
Cut it out.
That's what it takes.
All right. I just heard cut it out in my ear from the producer. I thought he was telling me to shut up.
That's what they say. I think he was.
I think in the meantime, we'll toss it over to Heather Childers.
Yeah,
Heather, we're going to cut it out.
We're going to talk about a drone underwater and China. Okay, so the Chinese government now accusing the U.S. military of trying to, quote, contain the communist nation. That, as leaders in Beijing say that the seized underwater drone is just the, quote, tip of the iceberg when it comes to U.S. military surveillance. But they are stopping just short of accusing Washington of spying, announcing that they have agreed to return the vessel. Now, the Pentagon saying that the drone was conducting routine operations. No word when it will, in fact, be returned. Horror on the highway as a driver swerves down the road, unable to stop. Look at this, while suffering a stroke behind the wheel.
What are you doing? What the? What are you doing?
Oh, here's what was happening. Watch as that driver slams right into that utility pole near Jacksonville, just keeps on going as it flips over the car, a biker begging the driver to stop, but he can't. Well, the car eventually getting stuck in a ditch, allowing Good Samaritans to help him out. The man who posted the video says that the driver is recovering. Lots of lucky people there. Well, President-elect Donald Trump is bringing a Merry Christmas back to the White House, but some students at one American university want to ban Christmas from campus completely.
We feel like it's just not really a safe space for people of different faith traditions. Would you guys like to sign?
I will totally sign.
All right, awesome, yeah.
Well, the group Campus Reform, seeing how many University of Virginia students they could dupe into signing a fake petition. Their phony argument that Christmas isn't inclusive enough. And in less than 2 hours, nearly 20 students signed up to stop Santa. And a really, really cold football Sunday in Chicago. The wind chill at kickoff in Soldier Field was -4 degrees as the Packers came back late to beat.
Point, Heather. Great point.
Yeah.
I'm being told he got penalized for that.
Oh,
really?
Come
You can't
on.
use props. It's the no fun league.
No fun league. Exactly. You know, Soldier Field is so cold. I used to go there to watch the Bears games when I was a kid growing up, and we were in snowmobile suits, sometimes double snowmobile suits, and we line the floor of the stadium with newspaper to try to keep our feet a little more warm.
I have seen a number of people also take their own personal antifreeze with them.
Yeah.
That's why Minnesota went to an indoor stadium.
There you go, smart thinking.
But we got Janice Dean. I don't think she's indoors.
No, she's outside being cold.
She's hardy. She's Canadian.
That's correct. All of you have experienced minus wind chills where you're from. It is cold outside today, folks. We have that part of the polar vortex that has come to visit us as far south as Texas. Let's take a look at the cold temperatures. Oh my goodness, yes, -20s in Chicago with the wind chill. Those are actual air temperatures, but you factor in the wind chill and we're talking about -20s, minus teens. The good news here, I have some good news. As we head into the latter part of this week, we're in for a warm-up. So 35 degrees in Fargo is, relatively speaking, going to be balmy for them. So as we head into the Christmas holiday, warmer temperatures on the way and quieter weather on the map as well. Back inside.
I love that Fox News parka you got.
Thank you. We're number one in cable news and number one in warmth.
All right.
Come on inside. We'll give you some coffee.
Okay.
All right. Meanwhile, the experts, as you know, got the election dead wrong, but these people, they saw it coming.
Who are you voting for this time?
Trump. I'm voting for Trump. I've got to be for Trump.
I'm going to vote for Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Trump.
Trump and?
Donald Trump for sure.
We are taking you back through our 2016 tour of America's diners straight ahead. A wonderful day here in the big town. We got Pete and Heather here on the Curvy Cast.
That's right. And my kids keep counting down the days. Yesterday, my boy said, Mommy, 7 days till Christmas.
They gotta
and your
do it.
3 are
Have you done
on
all
it
your
too.
shopping?
I'm close. How about you?
Close. I did mine yesterday. Yeah, online. Like a lot of males
Pete.
in America.
And-
Ship.
And Steve Ducey is probably the best Christmas shopper because every year he comes up with these great ideas for his girls and Peter as well. And sometimes we talk about them, and you're a lovely gift giver.
Well, thank you very much.
No, you really are. You really are.
I do my best to support local businesses in my town in suburban Virginia, in New Jersey.
Where do you live now?
We were talking about earlier with one of the guests about living out in Virginia. They're looking for a house. I gave them some suggestions and a lot of shipping online. A lot of Amazon gifts for the Ducey kids.
I know what I'm getting Miss Heather Childers.
Really?
Something related to the Panthers because she loves
I like
her
that.
football. That's
You're doing
right.
better than me. I have 0. so far. And it's Monday, as you mentioned out.
You will get it done, my
got
dear.
plenty of time.
Yeah. In the meantime, you got some breaking news, though, some serious
we do
stuff.
have some breaking news to begin with, and this is an awful story. A 3-year-old boy murdered in a road rage shooting, all because his grandmother was driving too slow. The horrifying tragedy happening in Little Rock, Arkansas. That's where a manhunt is underway at this hour. The family was heading to the store when someone drove up behind them at a stop sign and started honking. Well, the grandmother beeped back, and then moments later, the gunman got out of his car and opened fire. The grandmother and a 1-year-old who was also in the car not injured. Police are now offering a $20,000 reward for information. And a tragic end to the search for a missing soldier, a body found inside an Arizona coal chute 6 months ago, now identified as Private Devin Ward. The 21-year-old soldier was reported AWOL from Fort Bliss in Texas back in June. Investigators saying that Ward's fingerprints helped them come to the devastating conclusion, and it's still unclear how he died or how his body ended up in the chute to begin with. I regret it. That is what Attorney General Loretta Lynch is now saying about her tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton. Back in June, you'll remember the two met privately in Phoenix for 45 minutes at a time when the feds were still investigating Hillary Clinton's emails. Well, days later, FBI Director James Comey recommended no charges. Lynch admitting that the meeting maybe looked pretty bad.
I wish I had seen around that corner and not had that discussion with the former president, as innocuous as it was, because it did give people concern.
But Lynch still insists that she did not talk about the investigation with Clinton. Just golf and grandkids, right? And another big Bill Clinton scandal could be coming to the big screen.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Well, a screenplay about Monica Lewinsky's White House affair with then-President Clinton now being shot to movie studios. It is called Linda and Monica, and it delves into the relationship between Lewinsky and Linda Tripp, the woman who eventually exposed the affair. So would you guys go see that?
I'm not so sure I would.
I'd rather watch a comedy.
We'll see what happens.
Don't
Pete,
tell me about that story.
He wants to watch Love Actually.
Yeah, totally. Oh, boy.
Heather, thanks.
All right. Heather's done. Nigel Farage is joining us today from London. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Hey, what do you make of the fact that today the Electoral College is meeting? The cover of the New York Post is D-Day. And of course, some on the political left this is their last chance. They're sore losers. They're trying to steal the election. What do you make of what we're doing over here?
Well, I think those who are trying to deny what the result was, and by the way, we've got some here who still can't recognise the fact that we voted for Brexit and would like to reverse it. It's the same phenomenon. It's the same kind of people. It's those who've been in love with the liberal media elite. And I think it's quite disgusting to try to get delegates to reverse their votes today of all days. I don't believe it's going to happen. It would be absolutely monstrous if it did.
Yeah, Mr. Farage, I mean, obviously you've seen similar trends on the Brexit side. They try to stop it, but it's also an effort to discredit it. How far have you seen the left go there to do it, and what should we anticipate here?
Oh, well, we've seen, sort of violent protests, but mind you, I saw a bit of that myself in Fifth Avenue outside the Trump Tower the other week. So, I mean, that's similar. What we've now got, of course, are a series of legal cases trying to delay the government over Brexit, over triggering this Article 50, which is the legal mechanism that we need to use to leave the EU. And we even had a left-wing member of Parliament claim that maybe Russian hacking was why we all voted for Brexit. So it's the same.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it's the same. Yeah, it's the same miserable list of excuses from people who've had it all their own way for far too long. I'm sure that things today will go just fine.
Mr. Farage, I'm struck by this. When President Obama was first elected in 2008, one of the early things that he did is he went on this apology tour. He went on a couple of them. He went to many countries across the world apologizing for the things that he said that America had done wrong. Donald Trump, he wins. He goes to the heartland of America. He goes to the states that helped elect him president. What is your take on all that? And how are folks overseas reacting to Donald Trump's, if they are, going to to regular folks in America, whereas Barack Obama headed overseas?
Well, I think Trump's absolutely right. You know, he got these people to vote for him, despite the fact they were told that, you know, terrible things would happen to America and America's reputation if Trump won. It's what I call Project Fear, and we have much the same of it here. So, no, I think what Trump has done with this sort of victory tour is absolutely right. And yeah, you know, people like Obama, and we had a very similar Prime Minister in Tony Blair. It's all about virtue signalling. It's about showing the international community what a splendid fellow you are and what wonderful values you hold. And in a sense, that's why we've got Brexit. That's why you've got Trump winning. You know, we've had enough of politicians that posture to try and make themselves look good and don't appear to really give a damn about the lives of ordinary people.
Well, I tell you what, Nigel, Barack Obama now in the legacy phase of his presidency. He's almost out the door. On Friday, he had what could be his final press conference, and he made a statement that we thought, you know, it'd be great to have an international perspective. So I want you to listen to this, and then we want your point of view on it. Here's President Obama talking about how things are so much better off in the world now after his 8 years.
Almost every country on earth sees America as stronger and more respected today than they did 8 years ago. In other words, by so many measures, our country's stronger and more prosperous than it was when we started. It's a situation that I'm proud to leave for my successor.
So, Nigel, is the United States of America stronger and more respected than it was 8 years ago?
This is self-delusion, isn't it? It's somebody coming to the end of a very disappointing 8 years, doing his absolute best to try and write the history books. Do you know, I mean, here we are. I'm in the United Kingdom. We have been your oldest and closest, best ally for a very, very long time. Let me tell you that not only is Obama's reputation here lower than I can think of any American president for some time, but actually America's reputation is lower. You know, we used to be friends. We used to get on together, and yet we saw an American president looking, frankly, to Mrs. Merkel as being the boss. Obama backed European political union. Obama backed countries giving away sovereignty, and Obama watched the rise of ISIS and appeared to be completely helpless. And I think America these days, I'm sorry to say this, but it looks a lot weaker than it has done for a very long time.
Well, and of course, Barack Obama came to your country and said you should not vote for the Brexit as well, which the people obviously had their own idea and their own voice. How do we repair this special relationship? What's the most important thing Donald Trump can do to restore America's role in the world and also U.S.-UK relations?
Well, I've noticed that the British media, who were almost universally against Trump, and indeed almost everybody in politics in Britain, apart from me, was against Trump. But I've noticed that things are changing. What is clear is that Donald Trump and many people around him do value the relationship that we've had together. You know, just think of the triumphs and tragedies that we've shared together over 100 years. Just think of the fact that without Britain and America, you know, liberty, democracy would have died completely in Europe and possibly much of the rest of the world. And I think the signals are clear that a Trump administration wants to have a proper trade deal with an equal partner in the United Kingdom. I think that matters. And I also think we need to recognise that NATO, it may need redefining, but we've got to get people to start paying their way. And I think Britain and America can work closely together on that project. And let me tell you, I am really genuinely excited about the prospects for both of us now.
Well, you've been meeting with Mr. Trump. You know, I would like to know which countries Barack Obama views us as being more respected by. Certainly not China, swiping our drones. Iran harassing our sailors. We get the same stuff happening from Russia, exactly.
Cuba.
So which important ones value us more? Yeah, Cuba, good point.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, Barack Obama is popular with all the countries that he's been weak and that he's appeased. But around the rest of the world, America's standing is poor. And as I say, you know, it is during the course of this 8 years that we've seen ISIS come to prominence. And I've not heard a single word from this president about how to deal with ISIS externally, and certainly how to protect America better from people who might be ISIS agents. And I think a lot of people did vote for Trump because they thought, you know what? We may not agree with everything this man says, but he does at least appear to want to make America a safer place. And I think that really matters to voters.
And real quickly, before you go, exit question. Our chief diplomat, talking about the relations between the United Kingdom and the US of A, our chief diplomat, it looks like it's going to be Rex Tillerson, former CEO of, soon-to-be, of ExxonMobil. So much has been made of the fact he was never in Washington, he was a businessman, he's friends with Putin. What do you think about this guy as a pick?
Well, Trump said he wanted to drain the swamp, by which he meant he did not want career politicians, who cared more about their own future than the well-being of the country, to keep running everything. I think it's inspired to bring people in, whether they've been senior in the military or senior in business, the fact they've not been in Washington, the fact they're not part of the political class, I think it's an absolute breath of fresh air. And as far as Putin's concerned, look, none of us would agree with the things that Putin does in many ways, but we have to ask ourselves a question. Do we want to go on, particularly here in the European Union, and with Obama's backing, do we go on provoking Putin, or do we sit round a table and have a frank conversation with him? And the great Winston Churchill once said that jaw is better than war. So let's start talking to Putin. Let's see if we can find some things that we actually agree on.
There you go. All right. Nigel Farage joining us today from London, where it's lunchtime at breakfast time here in the United States. Nigel, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, great. All right, it's 7:12 here in New York City now. Coming up, a strong winter storm wreaking havoc for millions, even causing, look at this, a tanker truck to explode into a fireball on 95.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness. Janice Dean tracking the storm headed to the east, coming up next.
And liberal filmmaker Michael Moore making one last effort to stop the Trump administration, offering electors